Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Monday Musings, Danny and Friends SportsWrap. It's presented by Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. 7 locations all around the Kansas City area. Go see Dr. Woodle and his fine team to take care of your back, your knees, your neck, whatever is ailing you, or just not ailing you, and you want to have the maintenance to make sure everything's feeling free, kind of like me on Fridays, where I attend over in Overland Park. Anyway, ASFCA, 7 locations. Find them, listen to the spot here, and get a little bit more information that's coming up here. Well, what's coming up here is a mixture of misery and a little bit of exultation. I don't know, it's not been so good around here locally. You know, one team that seems to carry the mail, and we'll talk to our man Daniel Sperry from the Kansas City Star about all things soccer, including the Kansas City Current, who continue to be a ray of sunshine in maybe an otherwise not so great soccer outlook. Sporting Kansas City is absolutely in the tank, but unfortunately for the first time this spring and summer, they are joined by the Kansas City Royals, who have lost 11 of their last 13. Their offense has finally shriveled up and died. You kind of expected something to happen, and when your 2 main men are among those who are also slumping in Bobby Witt Jr. and Sal Perez, you got trouble. And that's what the team from Kansas City does right now. They slipped all the way from, at one point, I think, having 5.5 games clear of all the other wild card teams to right now, if the playoffs started, they would not be in. They're a half game behind the Boston Red Sox. It's been a long slump. We'll talk about that a little bit. And we'll talk to Daniel Sperry about soccer in our second segment. There's a lot of other stuff going on. It's a championship night in the world of sports. The Stanley Cup has a 7th game in the final, which has only happened 18 times. It should be an incredible atmosphere in Florida. The Edmonton Oilers trying to become the first Canadian team in ages to win, and the second team ever to come back from 0-3 down in the finals. There's a couple sports where it's never happened, but in hockey it's happened 4 times, once in the Stanley Cup Finals. We'll talk about that. There's golf. The inevitable continues to happen. Scotty Scheffler, a little dust up, literally, on the 18th green from some protesters, which was handled quickly. And although it's kind of scary when people storm a green, the climate change people usually just throw some dust around and leave. Well, they left courtesy of the Cromwell, Connecticut police. And after that, Scotty Scheffler took advantage of a bad playoff hole by Tom Kim, who was otherwise pretty gallant and in a pretty exciting Travelers Championship, which looked at one point like it was going to be really, really exciting. But in the end, Scheffler wins for the 6th time this year. All kinds of other good stuff from him. And, of course, we've got all kinds of other notes, perhaps, to touch on as well. Our baseball roundup. It all comes your way next. It's Monday Musings, Danny and Friends Sports Wrap, presented by ASFCA.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Always great to catch up with Dr. Brad Woodle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Everybody wants to make every year a great one, mentally and physically, and certainly ASFCA can help in that regard.
Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies. We're going to address the body and the mind to keep you in great shape. With winter moving into spring, we don't want to have the opportunity to get hurt or to be slow and not do what we used to do, right?
Absolutely right, and you can do that in a variety of ways.
We can. We love looking at the body and how it moves, looking at the posture and how it holds us to be strong, to be safe, and really to help us do those things we love to do.
The wide variety and range of services you can get helps in that regard at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. 7 locations all around the Kansas City area. Find the one that's most convenient for you. And for more information, visit asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where
If you'd
it
like to
belongs,
join these and
in
other
customers'
fine sponsors
minds.
and market
You can
your
find them
business
online
on
at
Kansas City's
cinematicvisions.com
#1 rated
or with a quick phone
podcast,
call at
contact us at Danny at DannyKlingscale.com. Look forward to working with you.
Welcome back, and the Kansas City Royals offense has gone to sleep, and their team has as well. It's been a long stretch where they haven't played particularly well, but it's a more nearby stretch where they went completely belly up. 11 out of their last 13 lost. In those 13 games, they've averaged less than 3 runs a game. That is not going to get it done recently. I mean, very recently. I think at the start of this road trip, they were 5th in all of baseball in run scoring. Now they're 11th. Their OPS is right in the middle of the pack, 15th. Now it's getting closer to their runs scored, which you figured would happen sooner or later. And this offense has been carried a lot by 2 main weapons, Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez. And then when other guys chipped in, it was a winning formula. And sometimes even when it was just those 2, it could be a winning formula. But right now, Witt is 6 for his last 38. Salvador Perez, who looks beat up, and I think he hasn't been able to train. It doesn't look like to me. Looks like he's gained some weight. He's hitting 152 this month, and you just can't have that. The Royals only have 4 players who are qualified for the batting title, so basically they have only 4 real regulars who've been able to play all the time, and that's just not going to get it done. Only 3 guys have a 800 or more OPS. Only 5 guys have one even over 700. And the Royals really need home cooking to turn things around. They have the biggest differential between playing at home and playing on the road this year. And they've got a good start to a homestand with the Miami Marlins. They're the Miami Marlins now. It's kind of like the Los Angeles Angels who've been the California Angels and back and forth. Anyway, the Miami Marlins are not very good. They're in the bottom 3 in baseball in both offense and defense, but you got to take advantage of it. And then a once big series with the Cleveland Guardians now will be one where the Royals are just trying to pick off wins and not really think about chasing down the Guardians. At one point, this actually, 10 days ago, this looked like a showdown. Now it's really not. The Guardians have continued to play well. We'll check them out in our baseball roundup coming up. But the Royals right now have to act so that this summer, which seemed inevitably to be in a position to be good and still has the chance to be, they're still 5 games over 500, but things got to turn around. Their offense has to pick up. They need the likes of Hunter Renfroe, who came back into the lineup, and Nelson Velazquez and people like that. Michael Massey, they keep waiting for his return, which hasn't really come, and he was hitting when he did play. And, of course, they need the main guys to kick it back into gear. All the Royals have played better at home, even the likes of M.J. Melendez, who has been generally awful this year, a little bit better of late, but he's been pretty decent in his home ballpark. So it's got to happen. It's got to happen now. The pitching is still solid enough. They've gotten some good starts in losing efforts, so the Royals, the time is now for them. And it was a point where you didn't really think you had to say that, but when you get the Marlins here and then the Guardians, they need a good homestand because then they've got another challenging road trip before the All-Star break. A little bit of a crisis time right now for the Royals, losers of 11 of their last 13. They're slipping towards that spot in baseball where so many teams reside, which is within a few games of 500 one way or the other. There's a handful of really good teams, there's a handful of really bad teams, and there's a whole bunch of middle-class teams. Well, the class of the East in the American League are the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles. Somehow the Houston Astros woke up and swept the Orioles over the weekend, and with the Yankees losers 7 of their last 10, the Orioles had the chance to surge into first place in the American League East, but they could not do it. Previously, they had been playing well, but the Astros got them for 3 right at a time where they needed it. The hottest team in the East is the Boston Red Sox, an unlikely team that you kind of kept waiting to fall apart. They are really a team that's designed more for a park other than Fenway Park, and it's shown in their record. They're 18-20 at home and 24-16 on the road, winners of 8 of their last 10, and they're obviously the team that just slipped past the Royals into the final wild card spot. They can't really think about the top of the division. They're 9 games out there. Tampa just won't go away. They don't look to be a kind of team that can get very far over 500, but they've won 6 of their last 10 to move into that range of baseball's middle class, 38 and 40. And the Blue Jays, somehow, some way, they just can't score. Only the White Sox in all of baseball are worse. Actually, baseball is in a position, let's get to that right now, the offense has been dreadful. That's one of the reasons you probably were surprised when we'd say, hey, the Royals are 5th in offense in all of baseball. And when you watch them play, it doesn't seem that great. Well, we've got a malaise of baseball offense all around. They are on pace for more than 1,500 fewer hits than last year, 1,300 runs, almost 800 fewer home runs, and doubles way down as well. Right now, the fewest doubles in a season since before the 1993 expansion. If this continued over the whole season, fewest home runs since 2015, fewest hits per game since 1968, which was the season that was the impetus behind bringing in the designated hitter, and the lowest batting average on balls in play since 1992. So we've got bad offense all around baseball, but the worst for a team that was expected to be good is indeed the Blue Jays. The Guardians had a little bit of a slide, but now they've won 5 games in a row again, and they're cruising out there near the best record in all of baseball, and they are holders of the best baseball record in the American League right now. They've been fantastic at home, 26-9. They've pitched well. They've hit way better than expected, and they have a big lead over the Minnesota Twins, who have continued to play well for a long time since a lackluster start. They're now 8 games over 500. They're a game and a half clear of the Royals. They've won 7 of their last 10, and I think people expected them to be a pretty good team, and that's about what they are right now, a pretty good team at .551 winning percentage. Of course, we've covered the Royals. The Tigers can't seem to get it going. They seem to be a better team than 36-41, but they haven't produced. Their offense has been a big problem, too. The White Sox are just dreadful. They win enough games to stay above the magic 250 mark, which is what we talk about. The 62 Mets, that was their record-setting pace. They're at 266 right now for a winning percentage. Mariners have been good for a while. They've steadied and sort of flattened out at a 5-5 record over their last 10. That has allowed Houston to show some life and bounce back and win 7 of their last 10, including 5 in a row, and that has them in the wild card mix. The Royals still have them by a pretty healthy margin right now. And the Texas Rangers have finally woken up also. You got to see that firsthand against the Royals, who helped them to have a 4-game winning streak as we speak. It's only splitting their last 10 games, though, and they are still under 500 at 37-40. The Angels stink. The Athletics are worse. And the Athletics are just biding their time until, I guess, they're going to play in Sacramento next year. And it's a stadium that only holds 15,000 fans. It won't have much of a major league feel, but you know what? It might be full. And that would be something that would be refreshing when they get 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 fans, maybe 7 on a good day or a weekend day in the vast Oakland Coliseum. Over to the National League, the Phillies have hit a bit of a skid, but they've still split their last 10, steadied themselves with a couple wins over the weekend, and they rule the roost in the National League East by a ways. The Braves have been disappointing, and I guess that shows how standards are high for a team that good, because they're 11 games over 500, but I think everybody would consider them disappointing, but they've started to come on of late. One of the surprise teams in baseball has been the Washington Nationals, and they've continued to be pretty steady. They lost a game this week, actually, on a pitch clock violation by their closer, Kyle Finnegan. He was called for a pitch clock violation with the bases loaded, and it was a game decider. But they've shaken that off and won a few games. Since then, they're 6 of their last 10. They're almost 500. That's better than anybody thought. Mets have played good ball for quite a while now. They were probably a team that was about to be dismantled, but now they've crept back into baseball's middle class at 37-39 by winning 8 of their last 10. And the Marlins come to town, hopefully fodder for a Royals rejuvenation. They are dead last and 27-50, coming off a surprising and really fluky playoff run last year. The Brewers are steady. They've only won 5 of their last 10 games, but they're pretty good, and we always call them they're undistinguished or indistinguished. It'd probably be hard for even a pretty good baseball fan to name 5 guys on their team they sold off or traded a couple of their best players over the last couple of years, and still there they sit, a healthy 12 games over 500 with a big lead over a long stretch hottest team in baseball, the St. Louis Cardinals.